Hey, this is Jay Nicholas with the Oregon Fly Fishing Blog. We're going to tie a Chinook Micro Intruder, and brace yourself because this is a long one. I'm going to tie it on a tube. This is a fly that I typically fish in the estuary for kings. It's not what I call a full-size intruder, and it's a very light fly. It fishes really well when there's just a hint of current. Now I'm rooting around here looking for some steely blue ice dub, real flashy stuff. It's flashy, but it doesn't produce much bulk. It doesn't produce much loft. So I'm going to use some Senyo's Fusion Dub with it, because I'm going to put a hackle on in front of this, and I'd like this butt section to provide a little bit of substance to support the hackle. My handy dandy OPST dubbing twirler here. Let's try that. There we go. So we've got the Fusion Dub core, and we have the steely blue ice dub, and that's going to provide a nice little bump at the back of this fly to support a Chartreuse Schlappen hackle. Schlappen, hen, saddle, you name it. You got to remember, as people who know a ton about intruders, our friends Jerry French and Ed Ward and his crew, intruder isn't really a fly pattern. It's a platform. It's a style that we can adapt to our own creativity, can and should. And there are times when I feel silly talking about the darn things, because there are folks who know a lot more about them than I do. But I'm a very serious student of the intruder, and I've tied quite a few and fished them a fair amount as the spectrum goes. I fished them enough to know when I'm creating a fly that fishes well versus one that just looks good in the vise. I'm going to add a Lady Amherst tippet feather here. Just put a few turns. I could use Lady Amherst tail feather here. That would be very nicely marked. What I'm looking for is some longish fibers with that hint of blue. And that's more of a hint. That's pretty bold. Now they're being kind of wild there. I'm going to try to lash them down. There we go. Now for my body, I'm going to use Lagerton carded flat braid, and there's any number of colors I could choose. This one happens to be a blue and pearl hollow. At least I do. So I'm big on fishing clousers for kings in the estuaries down here, but there are times, and you know, I just deal with it. I've got a lump in the back there. I'd rather not have that lump right there, but sometimes you just do. And this time I just do. And that was because when I tied down the stem of the Amherst, it was just a little bit thicker than I had planned for. So I like to fish flies like this. It's a tube intruder, very light. Almost lost it there, but didn't. When the tide's barely running, because those are the times when my clouser would go to the bottom, or I'd have to be moving it fairly quickly. I don't want to. I want to fish it really slowly. And so this fly is darn near neutral buoyancy. And it's going to stay up in the fish zone where I want it. I'm using a white thread. I could use a black thread. I could use a Chartreuse thread. I change my mind now and then. This is going to be just a hint of bright color here. And I'm going to make real sure that nothing goes where it's not supposed to go. Doesn't get away from me. At this point, I'm going to tie in a purple hen hackle. You could use purple schlappen, you could use purple saddle, you could use blue. You could omit this step. We've got our, we're working on our shoulder station here. We're hoping we got it all. We have a purple hen hackle there. Now we're going to add in a Chartreuse marabou feather. And we've been working with Fish Hunter marabou lately. Super nice stuff. It is a constant. You're constantly on the search to find the best source of materials at any point in time. And every distributor is going to have periods where they have materials that are superior or close, maybe not so superior. As tyers, our job is to do the best we can with the best we can get at the time. Now I'm not going to want very many turns here. I've got 2 turns there. 3 is going to do it. And this fly is going to look a lot bushier out here in the open than it does when it's wet and the tide's pushing against it very gently. I'm going to use a few strands of Mirage lateral scale. And I always say a few, and I never quite know what that means. It usually doesn't mean 2. I think I have 3 strands there. And I'll double it and bring it over to the other side. Trim it. Now I'm going to want to add in a little bit of ostrich here. So if you were fishing this fly in really fast water, it would the materials would tend to collapse around the tube, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when fished in very gentle flows, either in the river or in the estuary, The movement in these materials is just spectacular. It's very nice. It's very enticing. And I'm going to put a little bit of this ostrich on the underside of the fly. Now, if I were a super expert, I would probably spin my ostrich in a loop. And I have done that. And I've taken photographs of it. And I've proved that I can do it. But still, it's a struggle for me. So right now, I'm not. Right now, I'm just tying it in like a normal, frail, imperfect human being. The thing that's a little tricky is when you tie it in the clumps like this, you can get thread buildup. You can get bulk. Typically when you spin it, when your last turn of your spun ostrich, you're just done. There's no extra bulk. But we're going to solve that by adding a black hackle on the front of this fly. At this point I'm trimming the butts. This is a very Chinookish combination, very tidewater-ish or lower river-ish color theme. Those little strands of black ostrich stand out very nicely against the chartreuse. And that hot pink fusion dove, that pink lady fusion dove, is still visible through the fly. So I want to make sure that stays where it's supposed to be here. If I wanted this fly to sink quickly, I would add, for example, 1 or 2 tungsten raw weights along the way. Say right, perhaps right in front of the pink lady, the shoulder station. But I deliberately want this fly to be almost neutral density, and just rely on my sink tip to bring the fly to the depth I want it to fish. And that's why I'm not adding the raw weight. So this fly will not sink down below the depth of my tip, which means I can fish it in the, if I use a really slow sinking tip, I can fish this 5 feet below the surface, 3 feet, 6 feet. What I'm trying to do here is finish my last wrap just about where the butts of the ostrich finish. That way I can slip my cone on. There won't be a lot of bulk there. I think it's going pretty well here so far. Now, I could add imitation jungle cock at this point. That has a really nice look to it. In the interest of time efficiency, I'm not going to. We're getting close, folks. I'm really happy with the way this fly has come out. One of the characteristics of the Intruder platform: butt section, shoulder section, open midsection, a waist. Let me slide this off here. have a razor blade, but I'm going to use my scissors instead. Have a metallic blue ultrasonic disc. Just a little touch there. Make sure the tube's open. This is a proven fish catcher. Hope you have fun with it. Play around with the materials and the color themes and get out there and have some fun fishing. Thank you very much.